Hello viewers, in this video we are going to see a very interesting event that has happened in the first week of February. Now what happened was that on February 5th, which is commemorated as Kashmir Solidarity Day in Pakistan, some Twitter handles and other social media handles in Pakistan which contain the brand names of global brands like Hyundai, Kia, Domino's, they put out certain tweets celebrating or kind of aligned with the Kashmir Solidarity Day, which was celebrated in Pakistan, and it created a kind of a social media storm in India. For us, Kashmir is a very, very sensitive national issue, and when brands like Kia, Domino's, and Hyundai, which are very much popular and loved in the Indian market, is sharing some of the tweets which hurt the sentiments of the Indian consumers, naturally the reaction will be very severe. And see, this issue of these brands aligning with some Pakistan propaganda, it was taken even at the highest diplomatic level. The foreign ministers also involved in this particular issue. And it is almost 10 days after this controversy that I am putting this video, and that particular social media storm have kind of faded, but still there are a lot of kind of after effects for this particular controversy. And as a marketing observer, it is surprising that such events would happen for global brands and professional successful brands like Hyundai, Kia, and Domino's. And what I wanted to share in this video is my thought about what can a brand do in the light of what has happened in the past. So we all learn from the history. So what, as a marketing observer, I think the lessons for the brands which are aiming to be global and aiming to be big is that we have to rethink the way in which we look at our brand assets. So earlier when we talked about brand assets, usually it is the logo, or in some cases the packaging, or probably the brand color, or you have any mascots or some characters. So these are considered to be the brand assets. But in this digital world, we have to look at brand assets in a much more broader way. So your social media handles becomes a very, very important brand asset. So if you look at the many of the controversial tweets that have come from these brands, most of the Twitter handles, when you look at the Twitter handles, a layman would feel that it comes from a very official Twitter, or it comes from the company itself. But to be fair to these brands, these tweets were put forth by some independent dealers or franchisees. That is not an excuse, but still, see, in this era, see, anyone can have these kind of handles, right? So as a company which have operations across the world, you have to be very careful as to who owns and controls this handle. So social media assets like Twitter handles or social media pages or brand pages, now all these should be clearly protected by companies, and ensure that this should not go into the hands of people who can be who irresponsible at times, or who does not conform to the standards that is set by the company. So all these brands have reacted proactively, not proactively, they reacted to the controversy by issuing apologies or regrets, saying that these companies do not comment on any religious or national matters like this. But then it is also the responsibility, I would say, for these companies to ensure that these brand assets are protected. So probably for a new brand, the lesson is that you have to do some kind of a social media audit to check whether your brand is represented by somebody else other than your company or the agency that handles, and you have to check whether your brand handles in this social media assets is not taken by somebody else. If in that case, you will have to somehow retrieve these social media handles so that it can be authentic in the sense. See, in many cases, what happens is that some of the social media pages are run by fanboys or your brand advocates or consumers itself. While it has a lot of advantage when your social media pages are handled by the consumers or consumer driven social media pages of brands, it has a lot of advantages. It creates a lot of goodwill. At the same time, you don't have absolutely no control over what comes in that particular page, and for many outsiders it may seem that it is the company who is running these pages or communities. So it's probably it's not possible to control everything, but at least your company name and your official Twitter handles, all these has to be clearly owned by the company. So it makes sense to do a kind of an audit, a thorough sweep over the internet to check whether there are any social media pages or social media handles which mimic your company's brand pages or Twitter handles. So if you come across those kind of pages or handles, it makes sense to obviously try to retrieve it back, or probably in your have a presence in the social medias and tell the consumers and the public that this is the official page, and whatever that comes in other pages does not belong to your company's official position. And it makes sense to, when we look back and see that, we should have done this, you should have done that, but history teaches you, what happened has happened. Probably these brands were caught unaware about this particular handles and the kind of storm that it would create. And when you have these dealers and franchisees, obviously all these companies would have a detailed rules or norms for what to do and what not to do in the social media pages. But having said that, see, if a Pakistani dealer of Hyundai have put a post on a controversial post on Kashmir, and you ask them to take it down, then that creates controversy in that particular country. So it is a kind of a very difficult or fluid situation, but you have to take, or you can take some preventive action by having control over your official handles. Make sure that those pages which are similar to your official pages are monitored, and if possible you can communicate with the webmasters or the administrators of those sites to change the handles, or so that unequivocally you can tell, or that pages tell that this is not the official page for the brand. So in this era of social media and controversies, it makes sense for brands to seriously look at these digital brand assets and make sure that they don't land up in trouble in future. So thank you for your patient listening.